Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, American and Israeli military cooperation is stronger than ever. According to U.S. Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, the commitment of the United States to Israel's security is rock solid. The goal remains the same for both nations: peace, prosperity, and a dream of giving our children a better world. Work between the United States and Israel is stable and ongoing. Panetta made this statement while he was hosting Israel's President, Shimon Peres, as part of a state visit in which Peres was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom from U.S. President Barack Obama. While at the Pentagon, Peres took part in several roundtable discussions with senior U.S. officials, including U.S. Military Chief General Martin Dempsey. Peres used the forum to voice Israel's concerns over Iran's rogue nuclear program and its intent to wipe Israel off the map. He said Iran's goal is to take control of the Middle East as part of religion-inspired imperialistic ambitions. He emphasized that no responsible country in the world can accept a situation in which the Middle East falls victim to Iranian hegemony.
Former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has reportedly slipped into a coma. According to a spokesperson for the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, the 84-year-old former leader's health has been deteriorating since the guilty verdict was announced at his trial 2 weeks ago, when he was convicted of complicity in the killing of some 900 Egyptian protesters during the revolt which eventually led to his fall from power. Since that day, Mubarak has suffered from high blood pressure, breathing complications, and an irregular heartbeat. Last week, several Egyptian newspapers printed stories of the ousted leaders sliding in and out of consciousness. And according to one report, physicians were forced to intubate Mubarak, and several websites went on to report his death. An official from the Egyptian Interior Ministry released a statement denying the reports of Mubarak's passing, but did confirm that the former president has lost consciousness. The statement said that Mubarak has entered into a full coma, and his two sons, Gamal and Allah, submitted a request to the prison authority to be moved next to him, which was accepted.
Knesset member Ayub Kara said he has seen horrifying proof that the Syrian government is using chemical weapons against innocent women and children. Kara, who is an Israeli Druze, maintains close contacts with representatives of the Syrian opposition, and he coordinates the transfer of humanitarian aid from Israel to Syrian refugees. He told a meeting of Druze youths in the Golan Heights that the pictures he has seen leaves no doubt in his mind that Assad's government is using these weapons against innocent civilians. Kara told the group that Israel wants to help with the humanitarian crisis in Syria. He said that Israeli doctors are waiting on the border between Turkey and Syria for either country to allow them to provide medical assistance. He added that Israel is ready to receive casualties who would be evacuated from Syria to Israel, and we are also prepared to fly medical aid via Jordan to those children and infants whose families were massacred by the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
A U.S. citizen has called on the Attorney General to support a lawsuit which asks the U.S. authorities to seize the Mavi Marmara and 13 other ships which took part in the Gaza flotilla in May of 2010. According to the lawsuit, the Free Gaza and the U.S. to Gaza campaigns violated American law by raising funds in the United States with the intent to commit hostile acts against Israel, an ally of the United States. The funds were used to furnish and outfit the ships, which attempted to breach the Israeli blockade of Gaza. Dr. Alan Bauer, an American citizen living in Jerusalem, has also demanded that terrorists who released in the deal for former captive IDF soldier Gilad Shalit be prosecuted in the United States since their acts of terrorism caused harm to U.S. citizens in Israel. In a letter Bauer wrote to the U.S. Attorney General, he wrote that terror victims have looked to the U.S. government for support in their efforts to hold terrorists and their enablers accountable for their actions, and that those involved in last year's flotilla movement openly sided with Hamas and other terrorist organizations that reject Israel's right to exist.
Israel's Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem, was vandalized last week with disturbing slogans and Nazi graffiti. At the entrance to the plaza, vandals wrote, "Hitler, thank you for the Holocaust," and at least 10 other offensive and upsetting slogans. Israeli crime scene investigators were called in to collect and examine evidence. Avner Shalev, chairman of Yad Vashem, said he was appalled by this blatant act of hatred towards the State of Israel and Zionism. This has crossed the red line. Mattiyahu Drobles, a survivor of the Warsaw Ghetto and a member of the Yad Vashem board, said, "In Israel there are 200,000 Holocaust survivors, but these acts are not just against them, they are against the entire country."
According to documents recently presented to the U.S. Congress, Russia continues to supply Iran with equipment for its missile program. According to those documents, the Russian firm Rosoboron Exports continues to maintain ties with Iran, particularly in the missile sector. The U.S. Congress remains concerned that Russian businesses are selling equipment to the Iranians, which can be used for its ballistic weapons industry. The relationship between Moscow and Tehran is of great concern to Washington, and several Republicans have accused U.S. President Barack Obama of attempting to bury those documents in order to avoid further damage to U.S.-Russian relations. The United States has imposed economic sanctions on nations cooperating with Iran in an attempt to force the Islamic Republic to abandon its nuclear program. Last month, Moscow warned Washington of severe ramifications on bilateral ties if Russian companies operating in Iran were affected by the new U.S. sanctions.
The Flame computer virus, which has lurked silently in computers across the Middle East for more than 5 years, has been given the command to self-destruct. Known as the most sophisticated virus the world has ever seen, Flame focused its damage on energy facilities in Iran. The Iranian government released a statement saying that the virus caused substantial damage and that massive amounts of data had been lost. According to reports, the virus damaged centrifuges operating at the uranium enrichment facility at Natanz and infected the computers of Iran's highest-ranking officials. This super spy virus has the ability to turn on computers remotely and to transfer and change data. It can also activate the computer's microphone and camera and record and send all of the information to a remote source. The implications of the Flame virus are astounding, and now the investigation into the mysterious virus will cease because it has begun to vanish. On Sunday of last week, U.S. Internet security researchers realized that Flame had been given orders to disappear, leaving behind no traces. Meanwhile, preliminary research at the Kaspersky Internet Security has revealed that the Stuxnet virus, which set back Iran's nuclear program by at least 2 years, holds the identical code to that of Flame. This has led to the conclusion that the two super sophisticated viruses were created by the same entity.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has torn a tendon in his leg and will be in a cast for several weeks. The 62-year-old leader was taking part in a soccer match with Jewish and Arab youths when he slipped on the grass and caused the injury. He proceeded to rise, score a goal, and continue to play in the game. In a recorded statement, Netanyahu said that he took part in the match to promote tourism in Israel and to present the true face of the State of Israel, and that even though he suffered an injury, well, it wasn't exactly the European Football Championships, which he does intend to watch along with many other Israeli citizens. He added that he would return to the Prime Minister's office the very next day, where he would continue to play on other fields for the benefit of the State of Israel.
According to MasterCard's Global Destination Cities Index, Tel Aviv ranks as the 5th most visited city in the Middle East and Africa. The index estimates that more than 2.5 million tourists will visit the Middle Eastern metropolis this year, spending over $3.5 billion. That's an increase of $700 million from 2010. The majority of visitors to Tel Aviv come from New York City, which just celebrated its close ties with the Jewish state at the annual Parade to Honor Israel. Incidentally, the top travel destination for Israelis is the Big Apple. 191,000 Israelis are expected to travel to New York this year, and it's predicted that they will spend about $814 million.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. Our guest today is Congressman Mike Sodrell. Congressman Sodrell, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Josh. Appreciate the invitation.
Congressman Sodrell, as a congressman, you've been very involved in pro-Israel advocacy. You were a member of the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus, and Israel's always been an important subject for you. Why have you taken such a strong stand on support of Israel?
Well, I asked that question when I served in Congress. I told them I didn't support Israel for political reasons. I supported Israel for biblical reasons, which I think is a better reason, frankly.
That's the only reason. You're also the author of the hit book, Citizen Sheep, Government Shepherd. The book is really remarkable. I've read it now twice, and it's written very simplistically, but with important detail on the economy, on government, on the difference between a republic and a democracy. What inspired you to write the book?
Well, there was so much misunderstanding about America and about the way America functions and its government functions. And not only that, people don't understand alternatives. Like, they hear the word fascism, communism, socialism, but they really don't understand it. And most people are not inclined to sit down for hours and hours and hours trying to understand it. So one radio talk show host called my book a political primer. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that just normal people could read a book and understand the different kinds of political systems.
Well, you're from the great state of Indiana. In Indiana, they're having physical problems just like all over America. There's a lot of problems with the economy in America, and your book goes into some of the details why. It says that if you have a buggy, the people pulling the buggy have to be stronger than the people sitting on the buggy. Can you explain that concept a little clearly?
Yeah, Adam Smith talked about that principle in 1776, Wealth of Nations. He said anybody who produces more than they consume make a nation wealthier. Well, the converse of that is anybody that consumes more than they produce makes a nation poorer. So, I mean, as there are more and more people riding in the wagon and fewer people pulling the wagon, it eventually will grind to a halt.
And do you think that's what's happening in America today, that's why the economy is failing in such a dramatic way?
Oh, there's no question we're growing the number of consumers of government services, and we're shrinking the number of producers. Our unemployment rate is too high. But Indiana, fortunately, is kind of an oasis in the desert there in the Midwest. We've managed to balance our budget. We have a fiscally conservative governor. It's kept Indiana afloat.
Well, one of the concepts in the book is the idea that fascism and communism aren't on different spectrums of the political spectrum. They're not on different sides of the political spectrum. It's actually circular, whereas fascism and communism are right next to each other. Can you go into that ideology a little bit?
Yeah, there's this concept, and if I gave you a piece of paper, most people in the audience today, and said, draw me a political graph with the far right and the far left, you'd find that they were far apart, when in fact, they're very close together. The only difference between fascism and communism is the difference between government ownership under communism or government control under fascism. It's really a nuanced difference. It's not a wide gulf. It's very close.
You know, we're seeing unprecedented support from the Congress and the Senate in the United States right now for Israel, yet the presidency is seen to be pulling away from Israel. Why do you think that there's that divergence between how the Congress sees Israel and how the executive branch sees Israel?
It's very difficult to read the mind of the president. Congress, I think, has got the proper attitude towards Israel, and it's fortunate that we have the Israel Allies Caucus as a second voice to speak on behalf of the American people, so that the only voice heard isn't coming out of the White House and the State Department.
We're seeing from the Congressional Israelite Caucus that a lot of the different members who started in the Congress are going on to different positions. Mike Pence, the former chairman, is now running for the governor of Indiana. Dave Weldon, who is a former congressman, is now running for the Senate. How do you think these people in these type of positions who are so pro-Israel, so standing with Israel, will affect America's attitude vis-a-vis Israel?
Oh, I think the deeper the support, the better. And Bobby Jindal as well, one of my former colleagues, is governor of Louisiana. Roy Blunt went on to be governor of Missouri. So we've got number of people that have gone on to other positions.
Absolutely. You're going into a very tough election now against Obama as a Republican. What do you think the chances are of Mitt Romney to come out on top in November?
I think a lot depends on the economy. A lot depends on the world situation. It's if the economy, the unemployment rate hovers around 8 to 9%, I think it's going to be very difficult for the incumbent to be reelected. If the economy were to suddenly improve overnight, then he stands a better chance. It's going to be a tough race, though, any way you look at it.
There are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our audience?
Well, if you need to be informed, anyone that's in a country where you can participate in your government, you need to understand government in order to make the proper decisions. So that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, so that just regular people could understand the different kinds of government and understand themselves. I mean, you not only have to know the person you're voting for, you need to know what your beliefs are. And I hope that book helps to form that.
Thank you, Congressman Sodrell, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come visit Capernaum, where Jesus restored a paralytic's helpless legs. Sail the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on the water. Stroll through the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus healed a servant's ear. To learn more about standing where it all happened, in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
I am Palestinian. I didn't have the right to go to work as the Lebanese. This camp is like a prison for me and for my family. In this camp, there is no life.
I feel tired. I think about what will happen if my health gets worse. If she had Lebanese citizenship, she would be covered and only have to pay a small fee. But the problem is she has no citizenship to qualify for the Ministry of Health, so she needs an organization to help her, humanitarian or Palestinian, I don't know. Urgently, go to the hospital urgently.
Palestinian refugees in Lebanon are barred from 74 professions, which effectively bars them from working.
We don't have any dreams anymore.
We don't have the right of work, the right of education, civil, social security, access to the health care, nothing in Lebanon. That's why we are very impoverished.
The only thing that unites all the Lebanese parties and factions is the desire to prevent the Palestinian refugees from obtaining their civilian rights.
We don't have any rights in this country.
We are deprived from all the human rights by the Lebanese government. The children, since they're born, they realize that they are different. They are discriminated and they are neglected. They are margined. They are refused by the surrounding community. They are refused by the state where you are living.
Lebanon is not the only Arab country that is discriminating Palestinians. We're talking about apartheid because it's official. The discrimination is official.
How can this be? We've been like this for more than 60 years.
Only one group is perpetuated as refugees.
I'm hoping to my children. I don't want my children to live how I lived.
In the Arab world, you will find apartheid, but not one demonstration against the Arab countries. All of the protests against only one state on earth.
Israel is an apartheid state.
Israel is actually operating as an apartheid.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
Since its establishment in 1980, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has developed and maintained a network of international branches around the globe. The ICEJ is privileged to represent Christians, churches, and even entire denominations worldwide that stand with Israel.
Our call is also from Jerusalem outward towards the nations. For this purpose, we have branches all over the world in about 70 countries, representing all the continents of our planet. In those nations, then, among the nations, we remind God's people, the local churches, the leaders and pastors, about their responsibilities and our debt towards the Jewish people.
Recently, ICEJ Executive Director Dr. Jürgen Bühler had the opportunity to visit the ICEJ branch in Norway at their annual Israel Awareness Conference.
Shalom, we are here in Sandnes at the coast of Norway, and we are having this afternoon a wonderful Israel experience where we expect thousands of people to come together to honor Israel, but also to worship the God of Israel. Norway is one of the smallest countries in Europe population-wise. It has 5 million inhabitants, but Norway today is one of the strongest Israel-supporting countries in all of Europe.
We are here in Kongeparken, and we are just watching how people are pouring in for a large Israel gathering today. Live, you organized all that, and you have been with the Christian Embassy for more than 30 years, and you have been one of the key leaders, not only of the Christian Embassy, but I believe of the Zionist movement in all of Europe. How did it start, and when did the embassy start here in Norway?
It all started when I was, without any special reason, called by God to go to Israel in 1980.
And I just dropped into the opening of the embassy and the first Easter tabernacle. And together with the Norwegian group, I planted the Norwegian flag in front of the embassy in Raspa Street, the first ever building we had. And 2 months later, I was a Norwegian representative from the embassy. I've been with the embassy since 1980.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And what do you think is today the main challenge for the Christian community in regard to Israel and the Jewish people?
The main challenge for the Christian community in Norway, or also Europe as a whole, is to be faithful to the Bible. The Bible is our guide, and we have to be biblical friends of Israel, biblical Zionists. If you try to be political friends of Israel, try to be friends with Israel on other reasons, you are always running into bumps. Yeah. But the Bible is always true, and the Bible is always guiding us right.
Amen. And what do you think Christian can do very practically in order to support Israel?
Number one, pray. Number two, support an Israel organization, for example, the Christian Embassy. We can straighten out our hands in Israel, in aid work, comforting Israel in practical ways. We can confront the political issues that is always lying about Israel, in not only in Norway or Europe, but also in Israel. And the practical way of supporting Israel for a man or a woman who doesn't speak Hebrew, perhaps doesn't speak too much English, they can give us the muscles we need to do it for them. And so they do in Norway.
The International Christian Embassy, through its many branches, is working tirelessly to impact government leaders, church leaders, and Christians with the important message of the restoration of the Jewish people. We are representing millions of Christians towards the state of Israel and towards its people with a message of love and comfort. And we would like to invite you to join us and partner with us. Consider a financial support plan for the International Christian Embassy, because we are your embassy here in Jerusalem. Please prayerfully consider to place a seed of blessing here directly to the city of Jerusalem, and we expect and pray that a great blessing will come back to you as you support the International Christian Embassy. May the Lord bless you richly here out from Jerusalem.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner. Please join us again next week for all your Israel updates.